I could only imagine, like, when you guys are fundraising, as you're going investor to investor, like, I don't know, like, what were some of the feedback that you got? Like, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been when the whole market is investing into e-commerce and you're saying, hey, invest into what we're doing, into brick and mortar. And you guys just, I believe the last round you guys raised was $100 million. So that's definitely no uh, easy task to do.
Yeah, when you're scaled, things are a lot easier. Is really based on your kind of metrics and momentum. But, what's probably kind of most interesting is raising in the early days was really hard, especially our first rounds. You're cutting against the grain, and then you're building a marketplace business, right? And so when you look at like what are some of the most successful businesses out there, they're actually marketplaces, right? Like Google is kind of a marketplace. It's I got eyeballs and I got advertisers. How do I make a market between the two of them? With, Airbnb, Uber, they're marketplaces. Well, we're actually a three-sided marketplace. So we have to build technology for retailers, convince the retailers to use that technology. Then we have to get consumers to use the retailers' apps. And then we have to get CPG companies to actually buy advertising on that surface, right? In the early days, a lot of the Silicon Valley VCs actually, said like, look, like I like to invest in businesses where there's one thing that you have to get
Mm.
right, like one thing that's a leap of faith that I have to believe that your team can achieve. You're asking me to invest in a business where there's three hard things that you have to get right. Ultimately, part of what's important is you need to find a set of investors that see the world the same way that you do. And in the early days, we actually went to a lot of people that were luminaries in the CPG industry that, had grew successful CPG companies, also in the supermarket space, because ultimately they knew the problem intimately enough to know that there was a there, right? And so they were able
Mm.
to get comfortable with some of the assumptions that traditional VC wasn't. And that was very helpful for us to kind of build this marketplace business. And then what I will say, too, the other thing that helped is we were very anti Silicon Valley in the sense that we didn't build a negative unit economics business. So, you think about the delivery companies, right? The ride sharing companies, they all lost billions and billions of dollars on customer acquisition, especially in the early days. Get these companies that would raise billions of dollars and then basically like subsidize that to the consumer and $30 off your first three deliveries. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm spending a $60 CAC cost, not even including the advertising, just to get a
Yeah.
single paying customer. That's a tough business to be in, and I kind of see why the investors like it, because the investors end up owning so much of the company because of the amount of money that you have to raise. And that was something that we didn't want to do either. That was in the later rounds that became a really core strength for us because we don't have to spend billions of dollars on CAC cost because we're actually the technology provider. It's actually the retailer's responsibility, and they've got great brands. They've got great user bases. Some of them we work with. I mean, we just did an announcement, I think earlier this week or maybe last week, with a retailer called Gerber, family-owned retailer that's been in business, I think, 126 years, right?
Wow.
So, iconic brand and staple of the St. Louis area. And so, you talk about something that everybody knows, right? If you're in St. Louis, Deerbergs. We're really able to partner with great brands to bring a better consumer experience to their shoppers. I think that's a core component to how we're able to grow and reach tens of millions of consumers is really through
Mm.
that power that we created in that marketplace. And that's just a very kind of hard thing to do, but we were fortunate enough to be early enough and to have an insight that let us get there.
That's amazing. Like 100+ year old grocery store. That's crazy. Um,
It's interesting when you think about timeline, right? Because everything in technology happens so fast, and then you're working with some companies that have been around for so long and seen so much change. I mean, you think about a store that had existed before the invention of the barcode, right? And the kind
oh
of change
wow,
that
yeah.
they've gone through, right?
That's crazy. Yeah.